Hi everyone, before we start creating our beautiful glowing objects, I just want to show you how to load a brush inside the Photoshop. If you go to the resource folder, you will see this brush. We will be using this brush later in our design. Open the Photoshop and open a new document, any document, and then go to the brush, right click, and then in this gear icon, click on it, then import a brush, click on it, and go to the folder that you have your brush. In my case, this brush is on the desktop. I'm going to use it, but for you it will be in the resource folder. Press OK, and just like this, your brush will go to the end. This is the glowing brush Alan, and this is our brush. We are going to use this brush later in our tutorial. Something else I want to mention before we start with our design: just make sure that you name your layer just like mine, because creating this glowing effect will take a lot of time and we will be creating a lot of layers. To avoid the confusion, make sure that you name your layers just like mine. I'll see you in the first lesson. Bye bye. Wow. Hi everyone, welcome back. We have these two photos, this one, and I got them from this website, Unsplash. And also the batteries, I got them from the PNG Wing. You can see these photos in the resource folder. Right click on this photo, open it with the Photoshop. Now in the Photoshop, go to the file and you are going to create a new document. We are going to create a full HD document. You can change it from here. Make it 9020 by 1080. I already have it here. I will just click on it and then create. The resolution will be 300. So now I will bring this photo, click on it, copy, Ctrl C, or you can just drag it and drop it over this new document that we created. Then I'm going to fit it to the frame, just like this. Fit it like this, and then we are going to use the crop tool. We are going to crop some of the sides of the photo, just like this. Make sure that you're cropping it just like this one. Double click on it to apply the crop. The next thing I want to do is to select everything on the foreground, including the man and the table and the laptop. I will use the object selection tool to select it like this. So we're going to do this selection and we will save this selection for the later use. We are not going to use it immediately. So I'll just make a box around this man to make a selection around it. Then I will use Shift and include more stuff in the selection, just like this. We want to include some of the table and these bottles, this glass as well. Just make sure that you include everything in the foreground and everything on the table. Then I'm going to use the other selection tool which we have. It is the Lasso tool, the polygon or polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to remove and add stuff that I want. I want to remove this area. I'll press on the Alt or Option. If you make a mistake, just Control Z to bring the selection back. Press on the Alt to have the minus button and just like this, remove the areas that you want. There are many areas that we need to remove. This area also, we need to make a selection very nicely around the hand. And then exclude this cup. I don't know what is it. Sometimes this may happen to you. Just make sure that you click on the or press on the Command Z or Control Z to undo. Let's remove some area from here as well. We want to exclude this from selection and also this one. I'll go all over here. We want to exclude all of this. Okay, Just like this, we excluded that area. Let's do for this one, we want to include this area of the table as well. So that's why I pressed on the shift. We have the plus button. Like this, we are going to include all of this area of the table. I'll go just like this and come over here to connect it. This one also should be included in the selection, just like this. Now let's go to the face and the hair. I'm going to fix this. We need to remove this area. I don't know why always this happens to me, but if it happens to you, make sure that you press on the Ctrl and Z. Let's include this area as well. Just like this. Okay, now we are good. I'll just right click on the selection and go to the feather, make sure it is 5. Press OK. And then right click again and save the selection. I will name it anything. Name it foreground selection or anything, foreground objects. Press OK. Okay, now we saved our selection, and I did this selection because we may need it in the future. For now, deselect it. You can Command D or Control D to deselect it. And then I'm going to the adjustment layers. We are going to give it level. I want to make it very dark. Something like this. Our aim is to make a night environment for this photo. We will make everything very dark, and then we will add that glowing battery to give the light to the photo. Make sure you make it very dark. Then we will add curves as well. And we will bring it down just like this. Make sure you are making it dark just like this. Very dark. Then these adjustments layer, they have the layer mask on them. I'm going to use the brush to remove some areas. I'm just going to remove it roughly. Let me disable the levels. So for now, I'm not going to take my time and work on the light on the person and the area that I want. I will just make them visible a bit so I can work on the glowing battery. So in this lesson, our focus will be in the glowing battery. Now I'm just preparing the environment for the battery. I'll just make sure that the areas that I want the light on are visible, so we can just see the final look somehow. And of course, the final look will not be like this. We need to work on this light later, but I will just make an environment for the battery. Okay, let's keep it like this. I'm going to lock all of these layers so we don't click on them accidentally, and then we will bring our battery. Let's bring the battery, and I will cut one of them. It will be the first one. Use the selection tool, make sure that the layer is selected, and then use the selection tool like this. Command J to make a copy of the selection and remove the main layer that you have. Now you only have this battery. I will name it battery. Now you'll move it over here and rotate it. Place it somewhere around here. Okay, now I want to change the color of the battery. I'm going to use the adjustment layer, hue and saturation. Go to the adjustment layer, hue and saturation. We want to make the color yellow a bit toward the orange. Something like this will be good. Now clip mask it, press on the Alt or Option and click on it to clip mask it on the battery. Now I'm going to select this area of the battery. I'm using the Lasso tool, the polygonal Lasso tool. I will just select this area. We will be working only on this area to add the glow to it. You will make this beautiful. Now we did our selection. Click on the battery, Command J to make a copy of the selection, and move it above the hue and saturation layer. Make sure that you clip mask this again because it lost the clip mask. Now you will name this bar, and then we are going to give it a hue and saturation effect. We are going to select on the colorize and then clip mask it to the bar. Now let's change the color to something yellow and toward orange. Something like this is good. Now select both of the hue and saturation and the bar, right click and convert them to the smart object. I will rename this to bar. And then Ctrl J or Command J to duplicate it. Change the blending mode for the copy to screen. Then go to the filters and blur. Then Gaussian Blur. Make the amount of the blur 2.8 and press OK. And now you will duplicate it again, Command J or Ctrl J. We duplicated it with the smart filter with the Gaussian Blur. Just double click on the Gaussian Blur and you can change the radius for this copy. Make this 9. Then Ctrl J again to duplicate, then double click on the Gaussian Blur. We are going to increase the radius of the Gaussian Blur, make it 59. Again, duplicate it again, double click on the Gaussian Blur and we are going to increase even more. As you can see, we achieved this nice glowing effect and we still have a lot to work on. I just duplicated it again and double click on it. For this one, I'm going to bring down the radius for the Gaussian Blur. Make it 1.8 or 1.2 is good. Now go to adjustment layers, make the level effect, clip mask it to the underlying layer, which is bar copy 5. And now you want to increase the whites. We will work with the black area, move it to this side. As you can see, you are making it very bright, and this is what you want. You want something very bright and glowy. And of course, we are going to work on this a lot more. Now let's select the levels and bar copy 5 together, right click on them, convert them to the smart object, and then you will change the blending mode to the screen to make this even brighter. The next thing, we are going to add a layer mask to it. And then we are going to remove some areas to make it more realistic. Make the size of the brush very small. And the opacity that I'm using is 25. Just like this, remove some areas, especially from the upper side. As you can see, this is giving it a very nice effect. The next thing I'm going to do is to go to see the copy 3. This one, I'm going to duplicate it. Just to make the effect more obvious, Command J to duplicate. And then I'm going to create an empty layer. And I will put it over everything. Make the blending mode screen. Then I'm going to use the brush tool, make the opacity for a 13, and make the size small and paint over it. I forgot to tell you that you need to get the color from the glowing area. So just press I and get the color from the glowing area. And then press B for the brush and paint around the bar just like this. We want to enhance the glow just like this. I'm going to paint around it like this, and then I will make a layer mask on it. Then use the brush tool with the black color and remove the areas that we don't want. I'll make the brush bigger and remove it just like this. Okay, I'm going to remove a bit from the sides. Make sure you select the layer mask and then brush, and I will remove some from these sides. And just like this, we enhanced our glow. The next thing we are going to do is to add the percentage of the battery. Go to the text tool and you're going to write 23 or 23% or 20% actually. Then we will move it around here, rotate it. You can scale it down for sure and then rotate it like this. We will fit it inside the battery. We are going to use the same technique we used for the battery bar to glow it. I'm just trying to fit it inside the battery. Make sure it's in the middle. Like this is good. Let's double click on the text and then we will change the color. You'll get the color from the bar area. We want this yellow. Actually, I want to make it more yellow and toward the orange. Something like this will be good. And now I'm going to duplicate this one, then change the blending mode to the screen. Then we will give it the blur filter. We want the Gaussian Blur. It's a text layer. You need to convert it to smart object or rasterize it. In my case, I rasterize it and make the radius for the blur 2.8. Now I want to double click on this and change the color toward more yellow, something like this. And then duplicate it, Command J, move it up, go to the filters, we are going to give it Gaussian Blur again, rasterize it, and increase the size for the blur. 4.7 is good. Then I'm going to change the blending mode to the screen. Then we will duplicate this one, Command J, and then go to the filters, Gaussian Blur, and increase the size. Something like this is good. Then I'm going to duplicate the text again, move it above everything, double click on the text to change the color. We will make it a bit white like this. And now we are going to go to the filters, add the Gaussian Blur to it. For sure you need to rasterize it and increase the size. Make it 0.5, something like this, and then give it a layer mask. We're going to use the brush tool to remove some from the sides, just like this, to make some of the variation. Okay, this looks very nice. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to arrange my layers. I'm going to select every layer that is related to the battery and I'm going to group them together. So I'm going to press on the first layer, press Shift and click on the last layer, which is this one. Now we select all of them, Command G to group them. You can rename it. For now I will leave it like this. I'll go to the adjustment layers and add the hue and saturation. Now I want to make this a bit toward the orange, something like this, and increase the saturation a bit. Like this is good. We want it only on the battery, that's why I'm going to clip mask it to the battery. Press on the Alt and click on it, just like this. You need to hover over your mouse in the line between the layers to enable the clipping mask. Now I'm going to select the hue and saturation and the group of the battery. I'll group them together again. Now everything about the battery is inside this group. Okay, now that we created the base of our battery, it's time to work on the light on the human and the environment. So I'm going to select the curve layers. I need to unlock them first. Unlock them like this. Actually, I'm going to lock the background again. We only want the curve and levels. So for the levels, I'm going to use the brush tool and white color. I press on the S and I want to bring back all of the effect again. I want to make this dark and we will start all over again. So just to make it clear for you, I'm using the layer mask that we have on the level and curve, and then I'm using the brush tool, the white color, to bring back the effect that we added in the beginning of this lesson. So I want to bring it back, all of it, and then we will start all over again to work on the light, on the human, and also on the environment. And we will do that in the next lesson. Make sure that the level layer is below the curve layer. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye bye. Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lesson you are going to work on the lighting of the environment. So you have the curves and level adjustment effect on them, and I'm using the brush tool and black color to remove the effect from some areas. And if you remember that we added these effects in the beginning of the first lesson. So I just want to remove some of the effect to make the light on these objects, especially the objects that we have on the table. Right now we are removing some of the levels effect from our photo to bring some light. If you think you remove some places that you don't want, you can press X. With the white you can bring back the areas that you want. So basically X exchange between the colors foreground and the background. We have black and white in this case. So for now you are using the black to remove and bring some of the light to the face. We are going to take our time and work carefully on this. We will take a lot of time until we get something that we like. So be patient and carefully watch the process so you can do it for yourself. I now just increase the size of the brush and I will paint over here. Just to remind you again, the opacity of the brush is 8. So you're slowly bringing back some of the light on the back of this person. And of course, we want the light to be the harshest on the areas that are close to the battery. So these areas will have more light. And the back areas will have less light. We'll paint over this area again. Make sure that you're not painting with the background, you're painting only on the person. Let me paint on this area as well. Increase the size. Actually, we decreased, not increased. As we said, this process will take time. You should be patient about it. And just watch me doing this so you can replicate on your project. I keep going between the size of the brushes. And I mainly highlight the edges. I will highlight the edges of this laptop. Decrease the size and make sure that the edges are highlighted like this. And then these bottle of water and the glass. In the next lesson, we are going to work more on this glasses. We will make the reflection of the battery inside them and also on the screen of the laptop. But for now, let's work on the general light of the scene. As you can see, you have some issues that the light is on the background as well, especially around the person and around the laptop, but you are going to fix that. Okay, let's bring some of the light under the table. I'll make the harshness 11. And please make sure that you're following me because I keep shifting between the levels and curves, just like this, and I'm removing it like this one. So make sure that you are following me when I move between these two layers, the curves and the levels. Right now you are trying to add some of the light on the wall behind the battery. So the light should be the harshest right behind the battery, and then when it's far away from it, it should be dimmed. As you can see behind our character, we have some of the light on the wall. I'm going to press on the X to change the color to white, and now I'm going to bring back some of the effect and make it dark. We only want the light on the person, not on the wall. Make sure that you're going through this carefully. As you can see, we are painting over the person as well somehow, like we darken some of the edges of the face, but we are going to fix that later. So the tricky thing about this photo is separating the foreground and the background. I tried that with the selection and we already have our selection. We did it in the beginning, but it was not working. So right now we are trying to do it manually. I'll just paint on the background, make sure it is dark, and the foreground, it will have light. Now let's go to the curve and bring some of the curve effect. I'm going back to the levels and paint over this area carefully. Let's do it for this area again. Now we are going to increase the size of the brush and I will paint over here to bring back some of the blacks. And this area as well. Just try to come up with something like this. Go to the curves and you're going to bring back some of the curve effect as well. While the curve effect is selected, press on the X to make the color black and change the size to very small. And now we need to remove some of the blacks on the face. We want to add the light to the face. These blacks we added when we are fixing the background, so we need to fix the face again. We need the light on the face. So just like this, I'm removing the levels and curves effect. Okay, as you can see, some areas close to the beards, we have some lightness, especially this area. I want to press X to make it white so I can blacken it like this. Just blend it with the background like this. Okay, it's good now. Now press X to change the color to black, and we are going to remove the effect from the edges of the laptop to give some of the light to it. And then I will do it for this glass of water. Then go to the levels and paint over the glass now. As I said, just follow me. I keep switching between the levels and curves when I remove these effects. Now let's work on the hand. We need the light on the hand as well. Right now we are working on the levels. Let's go to the curves and remove some of it as well. Let's move to the levels again. I'm just now working on the edges carefully. Increase the size of the brush and work on this area of the hand and the face. So you want the light to gradually dim until it goes to dark when it goes behind the person. Now let's bring back some of the light on the table as well. While in the levels, I'm just going to paint over this area. Now create an empty layer, move it above the curves, and we are going to use this color. The color we'll get it from the battery, the bar of the battery, and we will paint over everything, especially the person. But make sure that you change the blending mode for the layer before you paint. Let's change the blending mode to the overlay. The opacity of the brush is 8 and paint over it like this. Let's change the size and paint over it like this. I may paint more than I should, but I do this usually. Then I'm going to add the layer mask to it and I will remove the areas that I don't want. So you just make sure that you paint over everywhere. Everything should have this color. Paint also around the glowing battery like this, especially on the wall, and then on the character. Okay, now I think some places are very harsh. I'm going to add a mask layer to this layer, as we said, especially the face. Make a mask layer on it, and then use the black color to remove some of it like this. Perfect, like this we remove some of the color. I will create a new layer, and then you will use the brush tool and this yellow color. Make the size of the brush big. Now we will make it bigger, and then paint over the battery. Move the layer above the battery like this, and then you are going to change the blending mode to the screen. And I will keep it like this for now. The next thing I want to work on is to make a screen for the laptop. I'm going to screenshot the scene just like this. So what you have to do is to screenshot your computer screen. My screenshot is now in the desktop. I'm going to move it to the scene just like this. And then you are going to fit it inside the screen of the laptop. I'm going to scale it down like this. Bring down the opacity so I can see the side of the laptop. I'm pressing on the command so I can stretch the photo just like this. And we will fit it inside the screen of the laptop just like this. Okay, let's keep it like this, double click on it. Now we can increase the opacity. Just like this, we created a screen for our laptop. In the next lesson, we are going to enhance everything in the scene. Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to change the color of the light on the battery, and also we are going to make a reflection on the glass and the bottle of the water. In the last lesson, we created this layer that we paint some light on the wall, and I put it on this group. Now I want it to be under the hue and saturation. The next thing I'm going to do is to change the hue and saturation. Oh, sorry. I accidentally clicked on a wrong layer. Let's go to the hue and saturation again, and I'm going to change it a bit. Make it 24. Keep it like this. But for the layer that we created, which is this one, it's not working. I'm going to remove the clipping mask. Press on the Alt and click on it to remove the clipping mask. Then move it above again and clip mask the hue and saturation to the group 1. This one also will put it on the group 1, this layer. Now it's working and we are good. Now the next thing we need to do is to close all of our groups. The group 1, which is inside the group 2, and then group 2. And I'm going to duplicate this, Command J. I will bring one of the copies below everything and I will hide it. This is just as a backup. Then this one, right click and convert it to the smart object. And then you are going to duplicate this smart object. Command J to duplicate it. Now we will move one of the copies over the bottle of the water. We want to make a reflection on the bottle of the water. So I'm going to fit it just like this, make it smaller. I press on the Ctrl to stretch it like this. And then I will give it a mask layer. Then use the brush tool. And you're going to remove it just like this. Right now I'm trying to remove the glue that we have around it, especially the below one. We want to make this reflection as realistic as we can. I'm going to rotate it like this. Actually no, make it something like this. And then I will stretch it from this side. I pressed on the Ctrl for that. And move it down. Then go to the layer mask and use the brush tool to remove the upper side. Not completely, but somehow. You still need to see some of it. Okay. It looks good, but I think I need to move it up a bit. Let's move it up like this. And then I'm going to use the brush tool, make the white color. I pressed on the X to make the white color, and I just made it a bit visible. Okay, now let's make another copy of this. Command J and bring this one over here. We want to make the reflection this time on the glass. The reflection on the glass will be different. We want to make some of the rays over the glass. Now you will use the smudge tool. Come over here, this is the smudge tool. Click on it and rasterize your layer. Now we need to make a mask layer and remove the upper side of this battery. I'm going to increase the opacity for that and remove it like this. Remove all around it. We don't want any of the glowing effect around it. Then go to the Smudge tool and select the layer. But before that, go to the Move tool and rotate it like this. Before we start with the Smudge tool again, I'm going to apply this mask. Right click on the mask and apply it. And now go to the Smudge tool and do something like this. Like this, we are creating the rays. I'm pressing shift with it to make straight lines like this. We will create these rays, ups and downs, and then we are going to create another mask effect on this layer to remove the areas that you don't want. Make a mask on it, then go to the brush tool and we are going to remove the areas that we don't want. I'm going to remove this side and then some from this side, and now we are good. I will keep it like this for now. I'm just going to see what are the changes that we made. These two, I will hide it and show just to see the changes, and they look pretty nice. Now I'll go back to the first curve and levels that we created over this photo. We want to adjust them. We want to remove some of the light from this area, make it darker, and some other areas you want to give it the light. So I'm going to the levels, make sure that you select the layer mask, go to the brush tool, make the size bigger and the opacity 11. And press X to make the color white. With the white, you will bring back some of the black that we added through this level. I'm going to select the curves and paint over it just like this a bit. So you want to bring back some of the blacks to this area as well. Then we will go back to the levels and make the color black and the opacity make it 5. Now we need to bring back some of the light gradually. First we will start with this area. And then I will add some of the light in the background as well. Click on the layer mask you have on the curves and paint over the back as well, just like this. And then we will go to the layer that we have, the layer number 4. In this layer we added some of the light over everything. I'm going to paint over these glasses and some other areas. Press on the I to get the color from the battery from this area, and then press on the B for the brush. Then you are going to paint on these glass and the bottle of the water. And I'm also going to paint over the areas around the battery, just like this. Some areas of the wall that are close to the character are not orange or doesn't have the light on them. For that I'm going to create a new layer, an empty layer, and we are going to paint over the areas that we want, especially the areas close to the character, these areas. Now let's create a new layer, and I'm going to bring it down under the curve and levels. Then I will get the color from here. I pressed I for that and then press B for the brush. We can now paint on this area. Change the blending mode to the overlay and make sure that the opacity of the brush is 5 or something very low. I'll bring down the size of the brush and paint carefully around the face. Let's paint this area as well. Okay, we are good like this. I'm going to create a new layer. We will name this new layer Glare. And then I will use the selection tool, the Lasso selection tool. And you're going to select this area. But first make sure that you select the screenshot that we just put on the screen in the last lesson. Make a selection like this, and then you are going to use the brush tool to paint over this selection. Make sure that you select the layer, then you will press I to get the color from this area, press B for the brush, and you are going to paint over the area that we selected, just like this. Now I will create another empty layer over this glare, And you are going to get the color for the brush from the battery, this area, and then press B for the brush, and we are going to paint over the upper area. We want the reflection to be more. Press on the Ctrl or Command D to deselect, and obviously we have too much on it. I'm going to change the blending modes. For the layer 7, I'm going to change the blending mode, make it screen, and then bring down the opacity to 73. And now I'll go to the glare and add a layer effect to it, layer mask. Then go to the brush tool, increase the size, the opacity will be 5. And we are going to remove from this area a bit. And then you're going to make a layer mask on this layer 7 as well, and remove some of it like this. Just like this, we created the glare effect on the screen of the laptop. Now the next thing I want to do, I want to go to the levels and curves that we have over the photo. I want to highlight the edges of the laptop, these edges. So I will select them, and then I will use the brush tool, the black color, to make them brighter. Use the brush tool, make it smaller, and make sure you click on the layer mask on the levels or the curve, and then we are going to remove it like this to make them brighter. Okay, let's keep it like this for now. We are good. The next thing I want to do, I want to make the dust effect around the glowing battery. For that, I'm going to create a new empty layer. And then you're going to use the brush that we loaded to the Photoshop in the first lesson. Now we created our layer, put it above here. And then I will name this dust. Then you already have the brush tool selected. You are going to change the type of the brush. We will be using this one. This brush doesn't come with the Photoshop. This is the third-party brush. You use the brush that I gave you in the resource folder, and we load it to the Photoshop in the first lesson. So I'm going to change the color for a bit white and toward the yellow and orange, and make the size very small. Make it 11 or something, and paint like this until you see these very small dust particles around the battery. Something like this is good. Now we will go and change the blending mode for this layer. We will see what will work for us. Obviously screen or light will work, but I'm just going to test others and see, maybe you will see something better. Yeah, we'll go for the screen. And I'm going to paint a bit more over it. Okay, like this is good. I'm going to change the size to 90 or 20 and see how it will look like. Okay, their size is big. I'm going to undo it, Command or Control Z, and then I will change the size to 11 again. And I'm going to paint more over these areas. Okay, and then I will use the blur effect over here, and I will blur these particles that you created. This will make them more realistic. I'll bring down the strength to 24 and then paint over it like this. And we are good like this. The next thing, we are going to work with the battery. We want to enhance the look of the battery, especially the upper side. This is our battery. I'm going to create a new empty layer, and then press on the Alt to clip mask it to the battery. Then use the brush tool and get the color from this area. I pressed I for that, and then press B to paint over it. So now I'm just painting over the black areas of the battery. Like this, we are making a reflection for the black areas. I will make a new empty layer for the upper side. Clip mask it, press on the Alt or Option and click on it to clip mask it to the battery. And then we are going to get the color from the background. And I'll paint over this black area. I want to blend it with the background. Okay, now let's try the color of the glowing bar on the upper side. You'll just see how it will look like. Press I to get the color and paint over it like this. Here I want to focus on the inside. We want to make the reflection inside of the battery, just like this. Don't worry if you paint over other parts, we are going to remove that with the layer mask. Change the blending mode for this layer to screen. And then we will give a layer mask to it. And I'm going to remove this part a bit. The opacity of the brush is 10. Remove it just like this. Then you're going to create a new empty layer. Clip mask it to the battery. Press on the Alt and click on it like this. And you're going to get the color from this wall. I just pressed I and got the color. And now I want to paint over the battery, just to blend it with the background. The next thing I want to do, I will use the blur tool to blur the battery. Select the battery layer, go to the blur tool. When you click on it, it will ask you to rasterize it. Press OK, and now we will blur this area to make it more realistic. Then we will go to the layer 9, the layer above it. I'm going to change the blending mode for it. Make it screen. Then we will add a layer mask to it. Use the brush tool and the opacity is 10. I will just remove some of it from these areas. And like this we are good. The next thing that I want to do is to work with the background. I want to work on the curves and levels that we gave it at the beginning to just bring back some of the darkness, especially behind the battery. We are going to select the curves first. And I'm using the brush tool with the white color. I want to bring some of the darkness to this area, especially these areas behind the battery. Then I will go to the levels, make sure that you're selecting the layer mask and bring some of the dark like this. It looks good, but I need to work more on the background. I'm going to work on these areas as well. I'll make the size of the brush smaller and work carefully on the edges. I just want to create this separation between the background and the foreground. The foreground is obviously this laptop and our character with the table, and the background is the wall. So right now I'm working on this area. Now select the curves and bring that back as well. I call this process polishing. I'm trying to make this as realistic as possible. You may take more time on this and make it much better if you want. Now I'm going between the levels and the curves to bring back some of the darkness on the table as well, and also in the background. I'm here trying to create a reflection, the shadow for the laptop. And over here I will try to bring back some of the darkness on the planet, just to make a bit of the separation between the character and the background. I'll make the brush small and carefully paint on this area. Okay, I think like this it looks very good. You can take more time and polish this better, but for now I'll keep it like this. Now I will use the crop tool and I'll crop it just like this. Double click on it to apply the crop. I think I cropped too much. I will Command or Control Z. Then I'm going to adjust my crop again. Okay, now the right side, I want to adjust it more. The next thing, I'm going to add the gradient map over everything. I'll go to the adjustment layers, then gradient map, and put it over everything. Then we will double click on the effect like this, and we are going to change the gradient that we have. I'll choose something like this, and you can change these colors if you want. I'm trying to find a color that I like. But I think I will keep it like this. Press OK, change the blending mode. We will make it screen, I think. Make it screen and bring down the opacity for the layer, just like this. And now we have an overall look to it, which is very nice. Now I'll go to the adjustment layers again. We will add another layer. We will add the color balance this time. And here we will change some of the colors, especially I want to enhance the orange. Make your setting something like this if you want. Then I'm going to select all of the layers instead of these two adjustment layers that we created. So I'm going to select on the layer 8, shift and the last layer, Command J to group them, then right click, convert it to the smart object, and then go to the filters and camera raw filter. And over here also we can add some of the colors or change the colors as we want. In the camera raw filter we have a lot more control, and you already finished the camera raw filter section, you know how to use this. So now you can go ahead and play with all of these settings and create a look that you like. Over here I'm playing with the exposure, which plays with the glowing as well. Then we have the contrast. I'll keep it at this one, make it -2. Highlights, let's see what will work good. Make it 11. Shadows -8. I just want to remind you that you already finished all the design. Working with the camera raw filter and trying to come up with a look is something extra that I do in this tutorial. I just want to show you how to use the camera filter to enhance your colors. I'm not going to show you how to work with the camera raw again because we already have a section about it. I will immediately go to the presets that I have and I will use one of these. You can also use one of the presets that you have loaded in your camera raw. These are my presets and they are paid presets. Unfortunately, I cannot put them on the resource folder for you, but you can go ahead and create your own presets on the camera raw. And we already adjust the colors with the gradient map and also the color balance. We can call this the end of this lesson. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed and learned something new. I want to mention again, make sure that you name your layers just like mine so you don't get confused, because I know this section is a bit confusing and there's too much going on. Make sure you name your layer like mine and carefully follow me step by step. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye bye. As you expected, it's time for a homework. I want you to practice what you have learned during this section and apply it on these photos. I want to make something similar that you have learned during this section. We have all of these batteries and also we have this photo. You are free to use another photo and also choose a different battery and create something similar to this one. I have also included this PSD file. It's the full design that I created inside the Photoshop just for the reference for you. I cannot wait to see your projects. Please don't forget to share with me. I'll see you in the next section. Bye bye.